Podcaster Joe Rogan is commenting on President Biden's age after he officially announced his 2024 re-election bid. Let's watch.
The fact that he's running again is so wild when you watch him talk. The fact that there's no leadership that can find a solution to this, because there really is no solution. I mean, we've bantered about it, you and I, and a lot of other people have as well. Like, what are they going to do? Like, what is the other than Biden dying, like very soon, and then someone stepping up in a big way that makes sense.
Which is not beyond the realm of possibility. Like, he's older than the average life expectancy, I believe, already. Not saying he will die, but that is possible. I'm sure there are a lot of people like in the Democratic establishment who have been like, I could just imagine there's a boardroom with like very powerful people meeting who they're like, okay, we're getting him out. What's the plan? Like, how do we do this? And I think they just cannot come up with one.
I can't come up with one.
Well, Joe Rogan isn't the only one to publicly speculate on Biden's age. 2024 GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley is not pulling punches when it comes to President Biden. She recently suggested during a Fox News appearance that the 80-year-old commander-in-chief won't live to see 86.
I think there's a few issues here. You know, he's announced his that he's running again in 2024. And I think that we can all be very clear and say with a matter of fact that if you vote for Joe Biden, you really are counting on a President Harris, because the idea that he would make it until 86 years old is not something that I think is likely. It's why I've continued to say we need to have mental competency tests up until starting at 75, just to make sure that these people deciding our national security, deciding our economic policy, deciding what happens to our kids in schools, it matters. And I think you look at that. I think there's a reason that he campaigned in his basement in the last election. He got a pass. This time, how much is he going to do? But right now, just being president, he won't answer the question.
A reminder that NBC News polling shows 70% of Americans don't want Biden to run again, with a majority citing age as a reason. So I don't know, saying he's going to die in the next 5 years is a little bit morbid. I do think there's some kind of health issue going on that's pretty evident to people who watch him try to fumble his way through a day of work in the White House. But I don't know, maybe you disagree, Jason.
Yeah, I disagree. I think, number one, well, first let's start with Nikki Haley. I think that her comments were strategically smart because Vice President Harris is less popular than Joe Biden, and people believe that she's even less competent. So I think that it was strategically a smart thing to say, are you ready for Vice President Harris to be president? And that's a kind of a prevailing sentiment on both sides of the aisle, is Biden is old and frail. He does not speak even as well as he did when he was vice president under President Obama. However, one of the things that we've seen is he's been really effective, whether you agree with his policies or not. He's gotten a ton done. He's gotten
nothing good done.
Yeah, well, that's a different thing, because you have a different political agenda. But when you look at
I think inflation speaks for itself, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think inflation is also global. We can look at some of the countries around the world that are experiencing inflation. I think I read that Argentina is at 104% right now, or yearly inflation. But the point is, he has gotten, that Inflation Reduction Act. And what does it say about Republicans if they can't outsmart an old, frail man who seems to win?
And trust me, I'm not here to defend the Republican Party, because I have a lot of issues there.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of issues with Biden. Yeah. Biden's not my guy. I'm just saying that he, just objectively, when we look at the policies that he's gotten through, he's gotten quite a bit through. Some on a bipartisan basis, and some, he's been able to find wiggle room through reconciliation and do all these savvy things that you only get when you have been in Congress for 75 years like he has.
Yeah.
So I think this idea of underestimating him sometimes can play into his favor. I don't think this is going to help Nikki Haley get to the top of the Republican heap. She's got a long way to go. She's got to get past another guy who's going to be an octogenarian very soon. And when you talk about health, Donald Trump is morbidly obese. So he's, will he live? I think that's actually, while it was strategically smart to say that, It is morbid, and there's also karma, because we can die. Any of us can die at any point. Maybe, I'll be open about the fact that I'm at least spiritual, if not religious, and I'm not going to go around and be like, this guy's going to die.
No, I hear you. I agree with
me.
you. That's bad karma for sure. And I feel like Nikki Haley's kind of auditioning to be the vice presidential pick right now, because
which she's not going to be.
No, and she also she did that thing where she went after DeSantis on the battle with Disney in Florida and offered to have Disney move all of their jobs to South Carolina, which was just idiotic, because you can't just pick up an amusement park and move it to another state. But that's beside the point. I feel like she realizes that her stock is not rising the way she thought it would on the campaign trail, and is kind of trying to say grabby things to see if she can get her poll numbers to rise, because right now she's at like 4%. So it just seems, like you said, strategic to try to garner some headlines and some attention. The only story I saw about Nikki Haley before this week was the fact that a Newsweek reporter reached out to her to ask about a controversy surrounding the dress that she wore to her daughter's wedding. And if you're running for president, that's not what you want the conversation to be about.
Right, and her abortion speech was a big flop, big failure. She didn't state a position. She just kind of got up there and said, abortion. And that's not going to play very well. Just the fact that she's a woman is not going to get her anywhere. I think this is, of course,
kick harder in heels.
Right.
That's what she said. Oh my God, that was so cringy.
I think it's Donald Trump's race to lose on the GOP side. We've seen the people that even get a little bit of buzz, they seem to kind of fail. And I would honestly say that I think in terms of VPs, if I'm Donald Trump, I'm choosing Tim Scott. I think Tim Scott is the best choice. He comes across as, moderate and measured, and someone who can soften Trump. He'll be the adult in the room. He's not someone who's going to, who has a big personality that will challenge Trump. And I think and again, he does something that I think is even more important for Republicans, and that is that as a black man, he kind of divides. Black women are not going anywhere. They're going to vote Democratic. They are the backbone of the Democratic Party. But black men are a little more pliable.
That's true.
And you're not going to get a big number of black men. Let me just be clear about that. But if you get
no illusions here,
a sliver, and again, they only needed 11,780 votes in Georgia. If you get 11,780 normal Democratic voting black men to stay home, then you win and you start winning elections. So I think Tim Scott, when a lot of the guys that black men that Donald Trump was trying to push out there and say, I'm not racist, look, those guys weren't smart. To be honest, they're former athletes and things like that. Right. Tim Scott is in a different category, and he's somebody who comes across as, hey, I will be the adult in the room. I'm somebody who will, make Trump more of a moderate type of character and can win some of those independent votes. And I don't think Nikki Haley's the one there. I don't think Nikki Haley has that kind of she doesn't have a ton of charisma. I don't think she's super popular amongst women. I don't think she adds anything.
I do think that Tim Scott is going to have to answer on the campaign trail for his work on criminal justice reform, because with rising crime, that's going to be a big issue Republicans want to talk about heading into 2024. But I'm glad we're in agreement on disliking Nikki Haley. We can always go back and talk about her anytime and know that
I don't
we can
like
find
Tim
an area
Scott
of agreement.
either.
Well, fair enough. But last thing I want to share on the Biden thing is I read this Politico article today that said the vast majority of his events take place between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., which is a total octogenarian move. So you gotta love that. But we'll be back with more Rising after this.